Chapter 2: How to Become Fluent in Words of Affirmation. Love language number 1. King Solomon, author of the ancient Hebrew wisdom literature, wrote, "The tongue has the power of life and death." We can tell ourselves that Solomon was laying it on a little thick when he coined that phrase. But if you've ever received an exceptionally good review from a boss, you know how the tongue can add a little life to your step. Likewise, if you've ever been royally chewed out by a coach on the sidelines, you know what it is to die 1,000 deaths in front of the home crowd. Words can pack a punch. If the movies have taught us anything, it's that the right words spoken at the right time by the right person can inspire people to do the unlikely, the improbable, and in some cases, the near impossible. Think Rocky II when Adrian from her hospital bed says, "There's one thing I want you to do for me." Win. Win. Think Rudy when Fortune's verbal kicks in the pants. You're 5 feet nothing and 100 and nothing, and you've got hardly a speck of athletic ability. And you hung in with the best college football team in the land for 2 years. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself. Stops Rudy from quitting the team. Think Hosiers when Coach Dale's short motivational speak. Forget about the crowds, the size of the school, their fancy uniforms, and remember what you've got here. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game. In my book, we're going to be winners. Sets the stage for the greatest upset in the history of Indiana baseball. It's this potential for good, the power of language to inspire, encourage, and build up, that makes words of affirmation such a vital tool on your meritable workbench. Putting in a good word. Mark Twain once said, "I can live for 2 months on a good compliment." Spoken like a true words of affirmation guy. His admission gets to the heart of this love language. For someone whose primary manner of receiving love is words of affirmation, compliments and encouragement aren't just nice gestures or polite conversational techniques. They're nourishment. That person doesn't just hear this, "Well done. You look incredible in that dress. Atta girl." She also hears this, "You have value. I love you. You make a difference." The real power of words lies in their ability to fill people's love tanks. If your wife's primary love language is words of affirmation, that power-up is at your fingertips, or more specifically, at the tip of your tongue. How you feel about wielding that power will depend on your own primary love language. If you're the strong, silent type, a guy who generally prefers to let his actions do the talking for him, learning to communicate through words of affirmation may prove to be a challenge. Then again, if you were the kind of guy who backs down from a challenge, especially when it concerns the love of your life, you probably wouldn't be reading this book. You can become fluent in words of affirmation. Here are some tips to get you started. Flattery will get you nowhere. First things first, flattery is not a dialect of the words of affirmation love language. To the untrained ear, the two may sound similar, but there are several distinct and important differences between them. The quicker you recognize those differences, the fewer rookie mistakes you're likely to make as you strive for words of affirmation fluency. Flattery is the language of manipulation. Flattery has an agenda. Its ultimate aim is to get something from the person being flattered. or to cast the flatterer into a positive light. Flattery is the tool of lounge lizards. Hey baby, you look good. You want to dance? And apple polishers. You look especially fit today, sir. Have you been working out? The more flattery your wife has been exposed to, the better she will be at recognizing and dismissing it. Flattery lacks the key ingredient of meaningful affirmation, sincerity. If your words are going to make a difference in your wife's life, you have to believe what you say. Unlike shadow flattery, words of affirmation run deep. They spring from an intimate knowledge of the person being affirmed, in this case, your wife. Unlike flattery, words of affirmation don't arouse suspicion or put people on guard. Words of affirmation won't be met with a defensive posture or dismissed with an eye roll. All joking aside, guys who are especially uncomfortable with verbal affirmation may be tempted to fall back on humor to ease the tension. Resist that temptation. What eases your discomfort may also cause some unintended pain for the person you are trying to affirm. The problem is, many people who are especially inspired or moved by words of affirmation are also especially susceptible of being hurt by less than loving words used in sarcasm, insults, and faint praise. Here are some examples. It wasn't the worst meal I've ever had. At least you get points for trying. Not bad for a 35-year-old. Such thoughtless, backhanded compliments can do more damage than you might imagine and cause more pain than your wife might acknowledge. I was just kidding is a pretty weak defense for throwing verbal dust in the face of someone who's thirsty for words of affirmation. Senses working overtime. Communicating love through words of affirmation involves more than your mouth. It also involves your eyes, your ears, your memory, your imagination, and more. In order to become fluent in this love language, you have to develop an extensive knowledge of and appreciation for the many things that your wife does. In order to develop that appreciation, you have to watch her. In stealth mode, pay attention to the things she does, the things she says, the way she interacts with other people, the thankless jobs she tackles, and the way she makes life better for you and others. Keep a list of your observations on your phone or tablet. Make a point of adding to the list, big or small things, every day. Your list might include things like the following. Know when something's wrong with the kids. Can make an old cut-off sweatshirt and shorts look good. Always greets visitors at church. Saves us money every week with her shopping skills. Makes a better lasagna than any restaurant. Never misses a bill payment. Keeps our credit rating high. Has great taste in music. After you deliver a compliment or words of affirmation based on an item on your list, delete it. This will ensure that you maintain a constant, fresh supply of affirmations to use. Working the grapevine. What's better? Having someone high-five you after a pickup game and say, "Good job," or walking into a gym and having someone point to you and say, "I hear that guy's got some serious game." In both scenarios, you're getting complimented, but the second scenario carries with it some fame and notoriety, which only sweetens the pot. Discovering that people are talking about you in a good way makes any day better. With that in mind, look for ways to send words of affirmation through the grapevine. to your wife. Talk her up around other people when she's not around. Publicize her accomplishments and skills. Help others recognize how incredible she is. All things in moderation, of course. You'll want to be careful not to become that guy, the one people try to avoid because they're tired of hearing about his practically perfect wife. You won't be able to control which words of affirmation actually make it back to your wife, but you can direct your comments to the people most likely to spill the beans. Your kids, other family members, your mutual friends, her co-workers, and anyone else who spends a lot of time with her. Along those same lines, public affirmations can go a long way toward filling your wife's love tank. Look for opportunities to talk her up when the two of you are with friends or acquaintances. During a dinner out with co-workers, you might say something like, "I thought the tiramisu was pretty good, but if I could have any dessert in the world, it would be my wife's peach cobbler." A lesson they'll never forget. Want to set a powerful and lasting example for your kids? Tell them how great their mother is. Be specific, genuine, and generous with your praise. Leave no doubt as to how blessed you are to be her husband. Done right, your words may inspire your sons to heap similar affirmations on their wives when they get married, and inspire your daughters to look for husbands who will do the same for them. Where often is heard an encouraging word? Some of the best opportunities in life involve risk, the very real possibility of rejection, embarrassment, or failure. It takes a lot of courage to roll the dice and face the possible consequences. Those who choose to pursue those opportunities usually face no shortage of discouragers, people inclined to rain on their parade and argue that something can't be done or shouldn't be tried. These doom and gloom promoters can be pretty persuasive, especially if there's no one to counter their influence. Cue the encouraging spouse. Your wife likely has untapped potential in one or more areas of life. That potential may be awaiting your encouraging words. Perhaps she needs to enroll in a course to develop that potential. Maybe she needs to meet some people who have succeeded in that area and can give her insight on the next step she needs to take. Your words may give your wife the courage necessary to take that first step. Let's be clear. I'm not talking about pressuring your wife to do something that you want. I'm talking about encouraging her to develop an interest that she already has. A certain well-meaning husband may be tempted to pressure his wife to look for a more lucrative job. He may think he's encouraging her, but unless that's what she wants to do, his words will sound more like a condemnation to her. If she has the desire and motivation to seek a better position, her husband's words will bolster her resolve. If not, his words will come across as judgmental and guilt-inducing. They will express not love, but rejection. If, however, she says, I've been thinking about starting a catering business on the side, then he has the opportunity to give words of encouragement. If you decide to do that, I can tell you one thing, you will be a success. That's one of the things I love about you. When you set your mind to do something, you do it. If that's what you want to do, I'll certainly do everything I can to help you. Such words may give her the courage to start drawing up a list of potential clients. Encouragement requires empathy, seeing the world from your wife's perspective. We must first learn what is important to our wives. Only then can we give encouragement. With verbal encouragement, we're trying to communicate, I know, I care, I'm with you. How can I help? We're trying to show that we believe in her and in her abilities. We're giving credit and praise. Most of us have more potential than we'll ever develop. What holds us back is often a lack of courage. A loving spouse can supply that all-important catalyst. The way you say the things you say. Becoming fluent in words of affirmation requires more than just mastering compliments and encouragement. It also involves communicating with a tone and an attitude that is unmistakably lovable. What does this type of tone and attitude sound like? Well, for starters, love is kind. That's not some sappy greeting card sentiment. Kindness is essential to healthy relationships. Speaking kindly to your wife means making sure your words and tone align. Seems like a simple thing, but it can be a challenge for a lot of guys. From an early age, we're conditioned to wield words like weapons. Sarcasm comes easily to us. We use taunts to good-naturedly, and sometimes not so good-naturedly, give others the business. If we're standing in a tee box with a friend or competitor who's just sliced his drive 2 fairways over, it takes real restraint not to say something like, "Nice play, Tiger." As we mentioned earlier, what seems like good-natured ribbing to some people can have a much different effect on someone whose primary way of receiving love is through genuine, heartfelt communication. To her, such tactics will be seen like anything but kind. Maintaining the right tone and attitude is especially important when you're feeling annoyed or angry. Snarly, "I will be delighted to wash the dishes tonight," in a tone dripping with sarcasm, will not be received as an expression of love, no matter how clean you get the pans. On the other hand, saying something as pointed as, "I felt disappointed and hurt that you didn't offer to help me this evening," in an honest, kind manner, can be an expression of love. With your tone and attitude, you're telling your wife that you want to be known by her. You're taking steps to build intimacy by sharing your feelings. You're asking for an opportunity to discuss hurt in order to find healing. Those same words, delivered in a loud, harsh voice, will not be received as an expression of love, but as an expression of condemnation and judgment. The hotter the situation gets, the more of an impact kindness will have. When your wife is angry, upset, and lashing out with provocative words, try responding with a soft, calm voice. Take in everything she has to say about her emotions and feelings. Let her tell you of her hurt, anger, and perception of events. Work hard to put yourself in her shoes and see the situation through her eyes. Express softly and kindly your understanding of why she feels that way. If you've wronged her, be willing to confess the wrong and ask for forgiveness. If your motivation is different from what she's reading, explain your real motivation kindly. Your goal must be to achieve understanding and reconciliation, not to prove your own correctness or superiority. Another principle comes into play as we work to become fluent in the kindness dialect of words of affirmation. Put simple, love doesn't keep a score of wrongs. It doesn't bring up past failures. In marriage, we don't always do the right or best thing. We sometimes say hurtful things to our spouses. We can't erase the past. We can only confess it and agree that it was wrong. We can ask for forgiveness and try to act differently in the future. Having apologized and asked for forgiveness, I can ask if there's anything else I might do to mitigate the hurt I may have caused my wife. When I've been wronged by my wife and she has painfully apologized and requested forgiveness, I have the option of justice or forgiveness. If I choose justice and seek to pay her back or make her pay for her wrongdoing, I'm making myself the judge and treating her as a felon. Intimacy becomes impossible. If, however, I choose to forgive, intimacy can be restored. Forgiveness is the way of love. I am amazed by how many individuals mess up every new day with yesterday. They insist on bringing into today the failures of yesterday. In so doing, they pollute a potentially wonderful day. I can't believe you did that. I don't think I'll ever forget it. You can't possibly know how much you hurt me. I don't know how you can sit there so smudgingly after you treated me that way. You ought to be crawling on your knees, begging me for forgiveness. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Those are not words of love, but bitterness, resentment, and revenge. The best thing we can do with the failures of the past is to let them be history. Yes, it happened. Certainly, it hurt. And it may still hurt, but she's acknowledged her failure and asked for your forgiveness. We can't erase the past, but we can accept it as history. We can choose to live today free from the failures of yesterday. Forgiveness isn't a feeling, it's a commitment. It's a choice to show mercy, not to hold the offense up against the offender. Forgiveness is an expression of love. I love you. I care about you, and I choose to forgive you. Even though my feelings of hurt may linger, I won't allow what's happened to come between us. I hope we can learn from this experience. You're not a failure because you failed. You're my wife, and together we'll go on from here. Those are words of affirmation expressed in the dialect of kindness. A little humility goes a long way. The final dialect of words of affirmation that we'll be looking at in this chapter is humility. Love makes requests, not demands. When I demand things from my wife, I become a parent and she the child. In marriage, however, we are equal adult partners. We're not perfect, to be sure, but we are adults and we are partners. If we're to develop an intimate relationship, we need to know each other's desires. If we wish to love each other, we need to know what the other person wants. The way we express those desires, however, is all important. If they come across as demands, we have erased the possibility of intimacy and will drive our spouse away. If, however, we make our needs and desires known in the form of a request, we're giving guidance, not ultimatums. The husband who says, "Could you make that good pasta one of these nights?" is giving his wife guidance on how to love him and thus build intimacy. On the other hand, the husband who says, "Can't we ever get a decent meal around here?" is showing adolescent behavior by making a demand. His wife is likely to fire back. "If you don't like what I make, you cook." When you make a request of your wife, you're affirming her worth and abilities. You're indicating that she has or can do something that's meaningful and worthwhile to you. When you make demands, you become not a lover, but a tyrant. Your wife won't feel affirmed, she'll feel belittled. A request introduces the element of choice. Your wife may choose to respond to your request or to deny it, because love is always a choice. That's what makes it meaningful. To know that my wife loves me enough to respond to one of my requests communicates emotionally that she cares about me, respects me, admires me, and wants to do something to please me. You cannot get emotional love by way of demand. My wife may in fact comply with my demands, but it's not an expression of love. It's an act of fear or guilt or some other emotion, but not love. A request creates the possibility for an expression of love. A demand suffocates that possibility. The more you work these essentials of words of affirmation into your daily interaction with your wife, the more fluent you'll become, and the more positive changes you'll see in your relationship. And look at this beautiful, pretty picture that they put in here. Words of Affirmation Phrasebook. With dedication and practice, you can become fluent in words of affirmation. Along the way, you may need some assistance, ideas to use when you're unable to come up with one of your own. Here are some suggestions for just an occasion. Don't just say, "You look good." Say, "That's a nice color on you," or "I like your hair that way." Compliment a different physical feature each day this week. Make a habit of mentioning something specific you've observed that has to do with who she is. Examples: "I meant to tell you, I really loved how you talked with that elderly woman after church." Or, "I enjoyed taking walks with you. You always point out interesting things." Initiate conversations to encourage her to share her inner dreams and desires. Begin a campaign of verbal affirmation to inspire courage for her to take steps to make those dreams come true. Add your own observations that might help your wife identify her skills and strengths. For example, I've never heard you express an interest in teaching, but from the way you handle the kids, I think you would make a terrific teacher." If you're artistic, create a poster or print with her name in the center, surrounded by descriptive words, phrases, and special names you have for her. If you're not so artistic, use old magazines and newspapers to cut and paste ransom note-like messages of affirmation for her. Create a playlist for your wife. You can be the DJ explaining why you included each song. Send her an encouraging email, particularly if you know she might be having a hard day. Put a link to an amusing website. Think of every recent argument or problem the two of you have had and try to clear the air. Learn how to say, "I love you," or other expressions of affirmation in a different language. And finally, thank her for something she does routinely and probably doesn't even expect to be complimented for.